Okay, Advanced Algebra 2. Yesterday we started looking at SOHCAHTOA and using it to find angles. Using it to find sides, and today we're going to use it to find angles. And on a quick side note, remember to get your homework posted with your work. Don't just show answers, you got to show your work. Okay? So today we're going to use SOHCAHTOA to find angles, and what you need to do is, if you grab your calculator right quick, if you look at your three trig buttons, your sine, cosine, and tangent, right above them you will see the exact same thing with a little -1 for an exponent. Okay, what that is, that's an inverse. So your button is your sine button and the notation above it is the inverse sine button. Okay, and you should have one for your cosine and your tangent. Now what that means is that if they are inverses, okay, if we have the inverse sine of the sine of 50, so these two are inverses of each other. Remember what inverses do, just like +5 and -5. They cancel each other. Or times 10 divided by 10, they cancel each other. So those two inverses would cancel each other, and your answer is just whatever is sitting right there. In this case, it's a 50. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'll show you how we'll use that today. Now, what we're going to do today is basically up to a certain point, the same thing that you did yesterday. So when you have this first triangle here, remember what the first thing we did was we labeled our sides whatever location they were in. You know, we said, hey, on this triangle opposite the 90 is that 13, that's the hypotenuse. Then we go find our angle, in this case it's an x, and we say whatever's way across from that, we called that the opposite. That leaves the remaining side to be the adjacent. So you can see here that our variable x is an angle. Yesterday we had a number there. Today we're not going to have a number there. We're going to find it. Okay. Now we label our sides and we look at it and we say, in this case we're not using the opposite. Let's cross it out. We're using adjacent and hypotenuse. So real quickly before I put it up here, tell me what that is, and you can look right up here. Okay, you see it, it's it's cosine. Okay, so we would set up cosine of x equals 12/13, just like we would have done yesterday, only again yesterday we would have had an angle measurement in here and we don't. Now we're going to use this thinking up here as to how can we get this x right here all by itself. We got to get rid of this cosine. Well, how did we get rid of this sine up here? We did an inverse sine. So to get rid of this cosine, we're going to do an inverse cosine. Okay, so there it is. There's my inverse cosine on the left. So these two will cancel each other out. But now remember, this was an equation. So the rule with an equation is whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other. So we have to do our inverse cosine on both sides. Now the effect of that on the left is those cosines will cancel. The inverse cosine and the cosine will cancel, and all that will leave us is this x. Okay, so the end result of taking that inverse cosine of both sides is we get x equals the inverse cosine of 12/13. And now we know what we need to punch into our calculator. Now on my calculators, if you have a calculator like mine, you have to hit that second button. Okay, so it depends on your calculator. You have to figure out how to get the inverse cosine to appear and then type in your 12/13. And when you do that, I got 23 degrees. So double check yours and see if you can get yours to do 23 degrees. Okay, so up to a certain point, up to this point right, whoops, lost all my work. Okay, I'll explain it on this one again. Okay, number 2. Sides, we see sides of 4 and 13, and we got to find an angle x. So let's figure out what these sides are in this one again. Again, opposite the 90 is our hypotenuse. Opposite of our angles, way over there is the 13. Right next to our angle is our adjacent. And we see we're not using the hypotenuse, so we can cancel that out. So we are using opposite and adjacent, O and A. Which one is that? I'll give you a second here. Did you say tangent? I hope you did. And then did you set up the tangent of your angle, which this is x, okay? Remember, We also made note of this yesterday. What comes after a trig function? What has to sit right here? An angle. Now we don't know what it is. It's x. So that's what goes right there. Not the 13, not the 4. The x goes right here. Opposite side is 13 over adjacent side is 4. I didn't write it down here, but that's TOA. All right. Now you're going to ask yourself, okay, I gotta set this x free. I got to get it out of here. How do I get rid of this tangent that it's sitting in there? Well, we do an inverse tangent. And we do it on both sides. It looks like I forgot my parentheses over here. Probably should have had some parentheses around that. Now, what's going to be the result over here on the left when we do an inverse tangent of a tangent? What's this whole left-hand side going to end up being? Whatever's sitting right here, which for us is an x. So we get x equals inverse tangent of 13/4. And then we just punch this in our calculator. See what you get when you do that. I got 73. So see if you can't get 73 on yours. If you can't, if you're having trouble operating your calculator, send me a message and let me know what kind of calculator it is, and we'll try to figure out how to get it done. Okay? If you're getting some weird decimal answers, especially maybe you might be in radian mode instead of degree mode. You might want to check that first. Okay? So it's up to a certain point. You know, we're doing exactly what you did yesterday. You're labeling your sides, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Scratch out the one you don't use. Look at what you do have, in this case opposite and adjacent, O and A, and figure out which trig function you're using, and then set it up just like you did Tuesday and just like you did yesterday. Now we just have to proceed a little differently because we're trying to find the angle. So we just use our inverse trig functions to do that. All right. Now I added into this the homework problems, so there they are. You can just copy them out of here. My class, I also attached a worksheet if you want to continue to print that off and do it on your separate sheet of paper. Just if you do it on your own paper, make sure you're putting the date. Okay, what is today? 4/16. Double check that. Okay, make sure you put the date so that you can easily label it and show all your work. Take your picture and send her back in. All right, so you only have 3 homework problems. Let us know if there's any questions. You can use email or Google Hangouts to get a hold of me. I'm here to help you, and we'll talk to you Friday.